People want to vote.
And I'm afraid the election's going to be rigged, I have to be honest.
Nobody believed Donald Trump at the time, but his victory in the 2016 presidential election definitively proved that statement he made. In 1870, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, meaning that all citizens of the United States could vote regardless of race or any condition of servitude. However, groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, who believed that African Americans were inferior, went to extremist tactics such as lynching and burning crosses to prevent African American citizens from voting, even though they had the right to. Not scared by this, however, activists took to the street in the civil rights movement to demand rights of African American and other citizens. Eventually, Congress responded in their favor. In 1965, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act, guaranteeing African Americans' right to vote in southern states such as Georgia and Texas. This should be the end of the voter suppression story. But no, as the struggle for voting rights has continued and now is no longer limited to African Americans, as those who are not interested in preserving voting rights have found new tactics and are more interested in keeping it subtle this time. The plan now is to make voting a bureaucratic nightmare, with examples such as long lines, ineffective voting machines, not enough polling places or early voting, or restrictions on early voting, or just simply removing people from the voter rolls. The list goes on and on. One of the biggest hindrances now is strict voter ID laws in states such as Wisconsin, and they are not limited to the South anymore, but they are just as harsh, if not worse, now. Because of the recent gutting of the Voting Rights Act by the Supreme Court, 2016 was the first presidential election in half a century without its full protections, and the results are tangible, meaning an upswing in those who don't care about the preservation of said rights. Here in Ohio, for example, our own Secretary of State John Husted removed nearly 500,000 voters from the voter rolls in the past couple years in a process that Ohio courts have deemed illegal, but no action has been taken. The difference between Trump and Clinton is not much larger. Ohio is not the only such state, as Wisconsin's photo ID law has meant that voter turnout went severely down as a result of it in particularly Democratic areas such as Milwaukee, meaning that the Republican areas of Wisconsin carried the state as a whole, even though polls said they wouldn't. The advantage to Trump is tangible. Not only did this reduced turnout mean that Trump won, but not the popular vote, he claimed to have won the Electoral College in a landslide, which is obviously not true, but he said that millions of people voted illegally, the only reason he lost the popular vote, which is properly
it would be easier to fake a Mars landing than it.
That's former Missouri Secretary of State Jason Kander saying that it would be virtually impossible to fake such votes, and what Kander implied is that claims like these are only meant to increase voter suppression, not decrease it. So the problem is only getting worse. Jason Kander, however, may lend an image of hope as he leads a political action committee called Let America Vote, taking up the reins of the civil rights movement, supporting elections in Kansas, Georgia, Virginia, and elsewhere in order to stop voter suppression laws, which he is a huge opponent of. The most important player in this, however, is you. Your vote matters. Your vote counts. Your vote is what gets people into office who care about voting rights or not. At the end of the day, the only way to ensure your voting rights are secured is by just using them. So get out there and
Exercise your vote.